President Obama is urging Palestinian leaders to abandon their plans to make a formal bid for statehood at the UN. The president met with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas on the sidelines of the General Assembly yesterday. He made it clear that the United States would veto any Security Council move that would recognize a Palestinian state. During his main address to the UN, President Obama said there could be no shortcuts to peace.
Peace will not come through statements and resolutions at the United Nations. If it were that easy, it would have been accomplished by now. Ultimately, it is the Israelis and the Palestinians who must live side by side.
But the president's remarks were overshadowed by the day's other big news. Iran released 2 American hikers jailed on espionage charges since 2009. The timing of Shane Bauer and Josh Fattal's release was no coincidence. Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad's address to the UN is scheduled for today. And for more on this, we are joined by CBS News Foreign Affairs analyst Pam Falk. Thanks for being here with us. We do appreciate it.
Absolutely, Betty.
All right, it is clear that the release of the U.S. hikers was a goodwill gesture by Iran. So what does that country want in return?
Well, they got $1.5 million out of the 3 hikers, but they don't need that money. It's a charm offensive is what people called it, because it echoes the same offer a year ago of Sarah Shord, who is the 3rd hiker. In other words, just before Ahmadinejad, and at the time he's coming to the UN General Assembly. And what he was trying to do was not be dogged by the questions about that, but he is, in effect, under scrutiny for several things. One is the one that President Obama mentioned, which was his nuclear ambitions. And in an unusual statement, the International Atomic Energy Agency said it's a cause for great concern how non-transparent they are. The second is terror. And the third is the crackdown on his own dissidents. So I think he'll come under a lot of scrutiny when he comes to the United States for all those things.
So this goodwill gesture, this charm offensive, if you will, is not working.
No, there's no question that the international community is very worried. And in fact, there were several Arab ambassadors who said last week that they lose sleep over what will happen if he moves forward on this nuclear program, which may very well be a nuclear weapons program.
Let's talk about the Palestinian situation, because President Abbas is moving forward with his plans. How is that going to work? Will it work?
Well, they have said today, and his major advisor said today before his meeting actually with President Obama, that they have decided to absolutely move forward. They're not going to be dissuaded from this move. They're going to move forward to the full membership program, meaning that they're going to make an application on Friday to the Secretary General, which goes to the Security Council. Now, they know full well from President Obama, who repeated it tonight to the Palestinian President Abbas, that the U.S. would veto that if it ever got to a vote. Because if there's not 9 votes, it won't even get come to the floor of the Security Council. But it did 2 things. One is that for Abbas, it just moves the ball forward, and he gets to go home saying he applied for statehood. He tried. What it does do is really, it dims the hope for peace, because Israel will not go back to the negotiations when Palestine is circumventing the peace process by doing this.
Isn't there a French plan out there? What kind of alternative would that provide?
Yes, Nicolas Sarkozy, the president of France, proposed that the Palestinians do go to the General Assembly instead, not after the Security Council. That would only need a simple majority, and that's a program for enhanced status. In other words, Palestine would go from being an observer entity to an observer state, similar to the Vatican. And that would mean some headaches for Israel, but it would mean that they could join different international organizations. What it would be is slightly less antagonistic, but either way, what this has done in a certain sense is take everything off the front burner, and that's probably good in terms of a confrontation. There won't be a vote for months, probably, and if it ever gets to the Security Council, but it did show that the Palestinians aren't willing to return to the peace talks.
Okay,
and
yeah,
that's what
said,
Sarkozy was trying to do.
Did this do more harm than good when it comes to that possible peace process, as many people want that to move forward?
Yes, it does seem to actually, obviously, in terms of the peace process, it dims the hope of returning to negotiations. And that is very negative for the region. It's not quite the confrontation, but it leaves the talks totally stalled for peace.
CBS News foreign affairs analyst Pamela Falk, thanks for being with us. We do appreciate your insight.
Absolutely, Betty. Good to be here.